everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cathartic Ruination. We are on episode 14 today, and I have been really feeling some type of way about our country's sexual history, which y'all know I love to talk about it. I do.
I'm going to interrupt and say I am very offended because you are not alone.
Yeah.
We are here with you.
Oh, sorry guys. Fuck. I forgot all about. I mean, that's fair. I was really about to do this whole show alone. Like, I didn't need you. Fuck. We have a full cast today, everyone. You wouldn't know it by my introduction, but we have everyone. Why don't you introduce yourselves for...
Oh, you're too good to introduce
I
us.
would start off.
Oh, I will. Don't you play with me. We have Dexterfield Morning Chaps.
Dr. Dexterfield Morning Chaps.
Dr. Dexterfield Morning Chaps on the mic. Thank you. And then we have Shaw Dawn over here on the other side. Yeah.
Less angry today.
Yeah. I'm probably the angry one today. And then we have Nasty Nick P on the mic.
We're back with the nasty.
Well, you're right.
You've never lost that.
I'm pretty sure that's why I like you.
You will always be
nasty
Nick.
Nick.
It's one of my favorite things about you. Anyways.
Just because I do things with my tongue. I'm sorry. So you were talking about how you feel about the nation.
Yeah, I was liking where the conversation was going, but I guess I'll go back to what's important to the segment. Yes, I would like to just talk about our country's sexual history today, and how important it is for us to address the elephant in the room, and also, unlike many people who have platforms, my opinion on how we can actually implicate changes on how to step away from our history and move forward into being the melting pot we claim to be as a nation.
All right.
Yes.
Let's do this.
So, we all need a base.
A base? What?
A base. Something to base this claim off of.
Like, what do you
mean?
Of
us being a melting pot?
Oh, I mean, it's a melting pot because we have so many different demographics in one place and so many other cultures mixed into it. That's just like when you're in school, you learn that, like, people call our country the melting pot. Like,
come as you are, bring your weak, your merry, your weary, your non-African American.
All that.
Bring your seasoning.
Specifically, bring things that I can take from your culture and enjoy, but I will also make you feel shitty about. So yeah, well, systematically, like when you think about it, we have been dealing a lot with like reproductive rights, and I think that's one of the biggest issues that we have as a country is people trying to find a way to justify murdering babies. But in all honesty, I think the reality of it is that we care more about having the choice and having the resources necessarily more than we care about killing our children. And because we are advocating for having the choice, people think that we want to kill our children. Like, why are you fighting so hard for this to be a law? Because my reproductive rights have been controlled by other people as long as our country has been functioning, essentially. And Black people have been brought into it. Now, I'm specifically talking about the viewpoint of African American women, but there is also the viewpoints of women of color in general, Native American women, the resources that they have, and also having to deal with what is being provided, being biased, and not being able to accept your culture and respect that and giving you care. That's a huge thing. Our country wants to act like everybody has the same opportunities and rights, but when it comes down to it, if it's not the rights and the viewpoint of what is current, they don't really care as much or understand as much. And I think that we have a really good setup to be able to change that and make people at least think about it from other perspectives, and at least make those opportunities known, or for at least to have people understand like their own identity.
You know, I like the fact that you said that with because there is a kind of a one size fits all. I mean, literally, you have 4 people in this room right now, all wearing glasses, and these are glasses that are shaped for a nose build that we do not have.
Facts.
Yeah, that was crazy. Whenever we learned about that, it was something that I didn't know. Go ahead and give the knowledge about it because I don't remember everything.
Yeah, it's just the simple fact that every pair of glasses that you have ever worn in your life were made for Caucasian faces, Caucasian nose builds that we do not have, and we've just been using these little, I don't even know what they are called right now, but these little things on the glasses to try to mold and shape to our faces, and they've
like
been
the
uncomfortable
cushions.
from the day one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I don't wear the ones with the little metal hooks in them because they hurt my face so
Fucking
bad
uncomfortable.
and they leave indents. Yeah.
And just like what you're talking about right now with the sexual history of the world, of this culture, of this country, we didn't know that because that's not information that is widely discussed.
Well, it's very cookie cutter, and also it's catered to who is successful generally in our country, and it keeps the system where it's at. And this is basically based on funding and curriculum in schools. And not to mention that we don't take the time as a people in general. I mean across the board. And like, this is not go for everyone. Obviously, there are people who seek out more information because if you're listening to this podcast, you already seek out more information than the mainstream of what we're talking about. And us talking about this in itself is outside of the norm for most people. They just think, this is what I learned in school, so this must be the facts and the realities for everyone. When the truth is what works for your culture does not always work for every culture, and isn't always a reality for everyone.
Fair. That's like saying,
very fair.
Everything is. There's nothing more American than hamburger and hot dogs, and you know what? This is a melting pot. Not everybody eats that stuff.
True. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, from my opinion, normally I try to be more professionally reserved for your show, but since you're on the level, I'm gonna go with you on this one. What in the whole entire fuck is wrong with all of the dismissal and the disapproval of our interactions? I'm really not. Okay, Trump is gone, Biden's in, things are supposed to be better. I'm not really feeling those circumstances. These openings aren't really coming in like they said or swore, this and that. And if anything, one thing that I have been noticing is a real big disconnect within our community. And it's, I don't know, this education that we've been subject to. Our elders don't really give us the information that they experienced, and that whole, I'm not going to go too far into the controlling, colonizing thing, but the knowledge that's been placed on us and the resources that we seek to improve us aren't really built for us, just like these glasses frames. And
Yes, that is 100% correct. And the reason why there is such a discord, in my opinion, is because as a demographic, we are facing a case of identity theft. And no, I do not mean financial, even though that can fall under the jurisdiction of my definition right now, because we do have to deal with financial repercussions of living in a country that was not based off of our growth. It was on the backs of our growth, but not necessarily for us to profit.
right.
So I think that we have never addressed how to change things as a group, and the reality is a lot of it has to do with laws as well. In my opinion, so much has been done to give us more rights when it comes to laws, but the fact that we have to explain it to people, like we just want what you already have, is a huge part of them making our identities not valid, in my opinion.
I can agree with that. I'm gonna need you to stop messing with your microphone because it's making a
I
weird
didn't do
scratchy
anything.
sound.
I was just talking with my hands.
Talking water hands.
But no, what I mean by identity theft. So a lot of the stuff I'm talking about today, I've been listening and reading 4 different books about reproductive rights and just sex education from the viewpoint of women. Specifically, this study was done, and also just politics about sex and colorblind theories in our country, where we have a lot of people who do have this theory of like, I don't see color, which I can't stand. Those
You
I
are
don't.
the worst.
Yeah,
of them.
I really can't stand that. I'm the colorblind people.
A blatant racist, a blatant bigot. They are more credible than you because at least they're honest.
Yeah, and that's understanding. Like, that's from a point of self-preservation. They're literally like, we like the advantages we have. We like the situations the way that they are. We do not want this other race to have a leg up on us. That's the reality for them. Which, if we were the ones who were in that situation, would we want to give up power so readily? Probably not. So I can understand it from the viewpoint of someone who is on their self-preservation line. But when you're on that colorblind train, oh my God.
You're no good. Again, one of my favorite sayings is always, by definition, your enemies cannot betray you. You colorblind, confused people, you're not allies. You are definitely a wolf in sheep's clothing. You may want to think better of yourselves, and you may want to think that's like the most woke thing that you can say, because we're all the same on the inside. No, you are telling us, I am waiting for the war to end, and then I'm going to side with the winner.
Yeah.
That's what we hear when you say, I don't see color.
And I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that. I feel like it's just coming from an area where you essentially saying that you don't see my color and that you just automatically think that now, because it's 2021, everyone has the same opportunities. You are invalidating the history of my existence, and you are invalidating everything about my experience and my identity.
Including my current circumstance.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just because you have never been through it, just because you don't understand it, just because you weren't taught about what the realities were for this demographic, doesn't mean it's wrong and doesn't mean that you should ignore it. When you see someone, you should see color. You should recognize that they have different cultural and social customs based off of their culture and be able to interact with them off of that. We do it for you. Not everyone wants raisins in their fucking salad, but we do not give you a hard time about your culture necessarily. That gets to be the normative. Your culture I can't even say your, like, I'm not part white. This culture is the normative of our country. This is what is taught in schools as the baseline of truth. And just because that is the case and you did not take the time to educate yourself about it, doesn't mean that it is everyone's reality. And that goes across the board. It's not just white people I'm speaking to. And I'm not trying to be preachy, but like on our aspect, like Morning Chaps was saying, we need to take accountability and we need to do the fucking work in our own demographic and our own culture for Black people and white people to make sure that things really are on that even level playing field. And that's talking about shit and addressing shit and not sweeping it under the rug and being like, oh, I have Black friends. I'm not racist. I don't see color. Everyone's equal. No, we're not, bruh. We want to be. That's the point.
If you don't see color, why is your outfit coordinating or not coordinating, depending on who we talking to? So.
Well, I guess like majority of men are colorblind. I didn't know that, or like a lot of them. Jesus.
I'm not the best with color, but
Wow.
But
I
essentially,
felt personally attacked by that one.
I know. You're the one who showed me it. But yeah, so like, I mean, when it comes down to it, do you guys feel? What? Oh, sorry. I lost my train of thought. I really did. Do you guys feel like when you're in school that you get a sense of identity for your culture?
I don't think school was built for that. That's not its original design. It's not what its intent was.
Okay, well, let me go ahead and say then, what do each of you think would be something that we could do to make a change in helping our country address the realities of our situation and why people study America?
Personally, which I've said before, I haven't thought this completely through because I am not a civil engineer, but I will simply say the school system as it is right now needs to be destroyed and burned to the ground and never looked back upon again, because this is not the way to do it.
I won't do it because they'll make too much noise, but you got my standing ovation.
I'm just saying, the way the school was built, the way it's still going, it's like right now they're kind of making like the most evil sci-fi villain the world has ever known.
Mm-hmm.
This thing has been dead. This has been a walking corpse pretty much since its inception, and then they keep changing microscopic things about it to try to make it live a little bit longer, and all it's doing is making it worse.
I agree 100%. The curriculums that we learn in public school is not realistic to how to survive in our country. It's just not. Like the basics of the English language and math and everything, yeah, you don't have to really change that. I'm fine with that. But when it comes to us learning about history and how to not repeat it and how to make changes for our country to grow economically for everyone, and to also for us to learn how to better function as human beings and communicate with each other, it's just not right. That's what I think. That's what should be taught. But go ahead, Rashad, your turn.
I agree with everything you guys said. I mean, especially what Nick said, like coming from growing up here in schools with that identity, whatnot, and moving to Texas and having that whole different shift. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like from one place to the next, there's no conformity. Nothing's on the same level. You know what I mean? So, but it's one of those things that it's always gonna happen. It's always gonna be there. So
yeah,
which is just such a weird thing, because you would think that if it were up to a wolf to teach a rabbit survival skills, the skills the wolf would actually teach the rabbit is how to be an easier prey for itself.
Which is exactly what's being done.
Well, but there are some predators who just enjoy the prey. There are those who like to watch it burn. It's interesting that you chose that statement, because I just heard someone speak earlier about. I'm not sure of the gentleman's name, but there was a man who supposedly was in prison, and what he would do is he would find a person, he would teach them all these survival traits in the prison system, and he'd help them get all strong and buff, and once they're all prepared and ready to defend themselves and they were comfortable and careful with him, he would knock them out and proceed to rape them, the exact thing that they were trying to avoid.
Holy shit.
Yes, and I just heard of the story just today. Yeah, I didn't even know of that as a dynamic.
What kind of mindfuck is that?
I mean, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that is exactly the kung fu master from all the like 60s and 70s movies.
Yeah, teach you.
I taught you everything you know, not everything I know.
Yeah.
Like Afro Samurai, he was looking for the number one, the dude who killed his father, and he's over here training as a kid. Come to find out, this dude is the one who killed my pops, and he's actually teaching me
the techniques used against my father. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and that's what I was gonna say. Like, what kind of mindfuck is that for you to give someone confidence, security, companionship, and everything? Like, build them up entirely as a person, and then consume them and break them of everything that they have done. Like that. That's like some
sick shit.
No, I was gonna say some sick shit, but that's like some conditionings that they used in alternative lifestyles.
I thought you was gonna say that sounds like some Black Lives Matter movement shit.
Oh dang, I don't know enough about that.
Wow, you just
I was just gonna say, like,
build us up just to drop us back down. When have they ever actually that they politicize to us? They come and campaign through our neighborhoods, even though people say our vote doesn't matter, but every single thing that this nation has ever done from its inception to this very day has always been based off of the actions, the reflections, and the activities of the African Americans on this continent.
True.
And rarely does it involve any other group, but primarily others, the Native American Latino group, because they were the indigenous people of the land. But it's interesting that Chris Rock said it a long time ago, and it's still real. We're 10% of the population, but 90% of the final four. You do the math and tell me what the fuck that really means.
Which is, I mean, no, I mean, and that's the reality of it, because I hate to sound like this, because it just sounds like really fucking mean.
I'm just being honest. Sorry.
Just from my perspective, like especially white women are very important because people will listen to them. But it's hard for me to always listen to a white woman and listen to them talking about struggles, or even anyone of another demographic. Like you were saying earlier, when like for BET, where it's like an entire white production crew and
not production crew, owners.
Yeah, white owners and
all decision makers
are all white, and they're
all
over
Caucasian.
here trying to tell us what black entertainment is, and
it's the trashiest of trash.
It is, but that's what I talk about when I say identity theft, because it's essentially identity, which I'm basing all of my information off of. Sorry, I can't remember his name. Robert Stone, I believe his name is. Yeah, Robert Stone. And he's written like 9 books about identity theory.
And just a quick question. What ethnicity is he?
I believe he is, I think he's white or German or something. I don't know.
Not on the back of his book?
I don't know if he's American. No, I'm using information based off of his books and other books put together. The identity theft one was based off of a bunch of different people who did identity theory, but
he is an extremely white man.
Okay, so yeah, so he just
holy shit.
So okay,
is
that's the whole point.
Kris Kringle white.
He
God
talks
damn.
about identity theory in general, but the book that I read was taking all these theories by white men and then applying their psychology towards other races. So we're like using the shit you discovered and showing you like, yeah, it's true, but for us, like, here you go. So essentially, identity, he said, is only takes significance when it's valid across demographics and across a social construct. So if not everyone realizes it and it's not like a social information, then it's not a reality, essentially. So, like when we go to school and we're learning all our curriculums for public school, what we learn there is the truth, when in all reality, we should have a more inclusive curriculum, in my opinion, like a comprehensive and inclusive curriculum, especially when I base things off of health education or sexual education. Because if you just take it as health education across the board, health falls under mental health, falls under physical health, falls under like sexual relationships. That's all health, and we have different categories that break off here and there, and that's fine, but that all falls under health. And I think if we taught health in general from this perspective of being comprehensive and inclusive and just like factual and realistic for everyone, then it would make a huge impact on us as a country. And I can give examples of that, but I just was wondering how you guys would feel about the idea of that being presented to your kids, or to your kids, but especially to you growing up. How would you feel if you had learned about things from that perspective instead of what is taught in school now?
I would have appreciated that more candid type of view towards what's happening. Eventually, the limited view that they teach us in the school system, which originally was created just to industrialize farmers, get the kids out the field and get them over here into this industry and work for us, do as we tell them to do under certain proficiencies. And that, even though that time has passed, is still kind of used in that way, but that's one of the major limitations that's been impressed upon us as a culture. So by having such a view, by hearing those things, it would have given me at least an earlier respect and understanding to those aspects of education and to my own personal growth.
Yeah.
Which probably would have helped in many different things, from my socioeconomic stance to my love life and my romantic interests. But that's
self-esteem, just basic shit.
Yeah, but it's after the fact is, so at least you live and you learn eventually. If you never learn, then you're definitely not listening to this show.
True, but if you started off with just like with the knowledge that we know now as adults and had to seek out like in school, imagine how much better you would be off. I don't know. I just feel like if you had a better platform, platform gives you the potential for a better structure later on. But.
True. And on occasion, like Nick the Joker says over here, sometimes you gotta take that canvas and blank that fucker out so you can paint something new, something worthwhile that people actually respect and understand the value of. You might have to drop that whole school system with the understanding of, we're not just defunding the police or defunding the schools. It's about rebuilding a new system. I wouldn't just say get rid of the police. I would say defund the police and refund the sheriffs because they have a constitutional oath to uphold to everyone who's a living being. But, all the politics gets twisted and people gain and most everyone else loses. So we have to be more educated amongst ourselves.
Exactly. Remember, there is definitely a difference between scorching earth and salting the land.
Yes.
I never said salt the land.
Salt the land lets no one do it again. Scorching earth is actually a required cycle. Some things will not grow if things have not burned.
You have to change the chemical composition of the nutrients in your land. But let's not get into gardening.
But, I mean, it's funny that you say about getting a different platform because sometimes I think I'm not the person that needs a platform because in my society there is again, we would have to first get rid of bigotry, racism, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But I am all for a breeding license.
Oh my God. I don't even know what that means.
It means you cannot breed. You cannot make more of you without
that seems
applying for a license and going through the proper training.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but yeah, we actually have to provide like education and training to being a successful parent and having successful relationships.
Like honestly, because if you had a breeding license, then and only then would we be able to bring in a law such as anti-parental alienation laws.
Oh, like you not being able to alienate the other parent from the child's life?
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Only then would you be able to enact that stuff because you applied for this license pretty much just like a CDL. When you get a CDL, you agree to not show up for work drunk or do any illegal substances.
Yeah.
If you do, you lose your license.
Period.
Well, and I honestly think anytime a family goes through a divorce and households are separated, that the children should be entitled to free therapists and outside people to be able to talk to and break down family dynamics between households because it's hard enough for us to come together and be able to maintain balance, but then trying to do it when you're not even in the same fucking household, like that's insane. And kids don't have the ability to process your bullshit and why mommy and daddy aren't together anymore.
Exactly. They need that third party to explain
the objective viewpoint.
Your dad is not garbage, your mom is just mad. No, your mother is not a whore, your dad is just mad.
Yeah, exactly.
No matter what's being yelled throughout the hallways, you might be the reason for it, but you're not really the cause of it.
Yeah.
You let me rephrase. You may be the subject, but you're not the cause.
Yeah, causality is totally different.
Yes.
And I am a firm believer, like as adults, if you don't want to have fucking therapy and you want to bullshit and you want to drink whiskey instead of talk to somebody about your problems and make a game plan on how to change and be better, cool. But don't do that to your fucking kids. At least give them the chance that you don't want or don't want to take the time to work for. And I might sound like preachy about the subject, but I do the work when it comes to my mental health. And I feel like I do more work for my mental health than anyone I know. And I'm not even trying to be an asshole, but I'm being realistic.
That's real.
That's fair. All I do is Streets of Rage 4.
Hey, I do Call of Duty.
So.
But yeah, and so the book that impacted me the most, that I think is going to cause the most controversy and this on the show right now, I have been really hesitant to talk about it because
trigger warning.
Trigger warning. Me and my boyfriend fought about this book a lot. So I expect people to feel passionate about the topic, and that is the viewpoint of blurred sexual aggression based off of misinformation. And this book that I'm talking about now is case studies done by a woman who went out into the field and interviewed multiple women from like high levels of teenage to, like adolescent age to young adult. Yeah, adolescent to a young adult age women. It does focus a lot on college lifestyles and the experience of like fraternity life and like parties during college age, where we get out of school, we haven't learned shit about how to actually interact with each other, and then we throw alcohol at kids. And that has caused so many fucking issues across the board. We tell kids to go to college, but we don't prepare them for it at all. We don't even tell them how to address going to a fucking party and trying to stand up for yourself and not fall into peer pressure or any of that stupid shit. And then we just expect them to not catch a rape charge.
Which is the wildness, because, we recently saw one of those little stupid memes that said, it was something to the effect of, instead of telling women to dress properly and stay safe, just tell men
not to rape.
To rape.
Yeah.
It's like, you really think throughout the entire history of man, every boy has not heard that?
Right.
Like, do you really think that is something that can be taught?
It's interesting, because my father never had any conversations with me about do not rape. But I did sit around and watch him have conversations with my sister about not allowing yourself to be a victim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On many different levels. When I say many different levels, what I mean is like, don't put yourself in the position to be victimized. Don't just commingle with those that you don't know, because that leaves certain vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
And even after a circumstance has happened to you, as long as you stood for what you know and what you've done, and you're within your moral bounds, don't let them defeat your spirit.
Yeah.
Things happen to you on the physical. They can never have your mind, and never allow any circumstance, whether you won the physical situation or quote unquote you lost, never let them take your spirit.
And here is the counter to that, which is unfortunately something that this country is based off of. Sales.
Mm-hmm.
How many people in this room has been in sales?
Huh.
Pretty goddamn much everybody. And what's the main thing that you hear? No is just a chance to turn it into a yes.
For sure.
Yeah.
You do not accept no as an answer.
Yep.
And what's the main thing that they teach? If you want something, you just go for it.
Yeah.
And the idiom that goes along with that, it's better to ask for forgiveness than it is for permission.
And at first you don't succeed. Hey. Ask that bitch if she wants to fuck again.
God damn it.
Ask that bitch if she wants to fuck again.
We did appreciate
Hey.
you guys listening to us before we got canceled. I would like to.
sorry.
I would say thank our sponsors, but
Clearly, Gatorade said, "Fuck y'all."
Why?
Hennessy's still a contender. Hennessy's
I thirst so much, and Gatorade Zero, I really appreciate you.
Oh, what's this? A check from Hennessy? Hey, Henny here. Henny here.
I'm your sponsor who ain't paying shit.
No, but again, I think for what I said earlier, I think every boy, man, child has heard rape is bad, don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also being brought up in households full of salesmen who say, no, no, no. You listen to what they say, you take keywords, and then you turn it against them, and you get that yes. You get that yes. You get the sale.
Mm-hmm.
That is the only culture that is basically for do what you got to do to get what you want.
I will see your statement and I will up you one, sir. We grew up with Pepe Le Pew.
Well, we also grew up with Miss Piggy.
She
Yeah.
also took it.
Yeah?
Yes.
She didn't ask for shit. Kermit was her bitch.
Well, and that's my fucking point. Like, this whole book is about that perspective. You send your kids into the fucking battlefield without the armor they need. They do not understand how to put up boundaries. And if a fucking kid whose dad has told him, like, you know what, your mom didn't even like me when I first met her. She told me no for 2 years straight, and I stalked that bitch, and now we're married, and I have you. They think that that's okay.
They think that that's cute. They think that's the cutest story ever.
And that is romantic comedy.
My dad
Media.
flattened the tire of Billy Jennison so he can get with mom on the day Billy was supposed to have a date with her.
Yeah. And
so
that's what you see in romantic comedies. I'm not like, this
if he didn't commit a misdemeanor, I wouldn't be here today.
My dad was inside of a tree stalking my mom and looking at her through her window when he fell out of the tree, and her dad hit him with the car, and then they fell in love and had me.
What?
Back to the future.
Yes.
Back to the future.
Back to the goddamn future.
And that's my fucking, like, again, that's my point. When it comes down to educating our kids about relationships and how to interact with other humans, we give them the, you know what, just don't until you get married. That's what's even paid for in our schools. That's the funding of our education right now. And our schools have to take those grants because they literally can't afford to buy textbooks for kids based off of, you know, the money they receive from the taxes around their environment and their districts and stuff.
Which segues me to an interesting topic, this whole critical race theory. What's that about? Anybody. Critical race theory? I who is the critical race and which races are not critical? What is the expectation of critical race theory? Why is this a part of our public school teaching nationwide? To the point that even in Illinois, it's mandatory to teach Asian American history. I'm sorry, but I have a lot of problems with the etymology in that title. Critical is very important. It's the most important. Race, who is the most important race? And this is just a theory. This is not a fact. So why is this a part of our public school curriculum?
I don't believe it is part of the public school curriculum.
What I was told is with the recent stimulus that has come out with schools, in order for them to receive their funding, many of them have taken on these subtle policies of teaching a critical race theory.
It's exactly what I'm talking about. It's
I don't get it, though.
It's a grant that is being provided to programs who teach a specific curriculum. And the current grants that are being put out for health curriculum are contraceptive ban, also only abstinence only teaching when it comes to sexuality and sex education, and only like reproductive facts. So that's like a reality of the curriculum put out now, and that's not working. So you may not agree necessarily with the critical race grant.
I just don't understand it.
Well, I think it's just a grant trying to put out information about other demographics aside from what's in school. So
allow me to jump in here and put on not my tinfoil hat, but my properly fitted Faraday cage, and say I believe this is 100% pay attention to the left hand and ignore the right hand kind of thing. It sounds like they're pushing out a critical race theory, not because they actually want people to worry about it, but because of everybody who's single-minded and is focusing on that will not be paying attention to everything else that's going on in this country.
That's fair, because people want to like trip about, like, I don't want my kids learning about whatever, you know, everyone's equal. I don't want them to think that, you know, and that goes back to the colorblind notion. Like, what's the big fucking deal for your kid to learn about Asian American history in our country, or African American history in our country, or Native American history in our country? Just because it's not about your kid doesn't mean that not all kids should hear it.
Speaking of which, when they say critical race theory, I wonder, is the group Stop All Hate also against critical race theory? Or or is there no such group called Stop All Hate, just All Lives Matter?
Yeah.
Why is there not a Stop All Hate?
Well, and my issue with it is
It's
whenever
almost like the other one is meant just to discredit the other.
exactly, that's what I say. My
True.
issue with it is that when you say critical race theory, it also it comes off almost as a negative thing because it's like we're bringing race into it, and that's such a charged word. And then critical, like people break down words differently, and not everyone has the ability to understand things in that way. And that's why I think it should just be like health about everyone, or like reproductive rights about everyone. And just to give examples of this, like I think something that should be taught in schools is negotiating consent whenever you have relationships, and that should be from when you're a teenager to you're an adult. And this can go from sexual, this can go to relationships, but even if you're just teaching it from one perspective, it can go across the board. And like Morning Chaps was saying earlier, like you said you heard your dad teaching, who would you say you heard teaching?
My father is teaching my sister
teaching
how
your
to not
sister
be a victim.
about how to not be a victim, and which is cool. It's important to have those discussions, but it also needs to go both ways. Many boys are being victims of the justice system, and like
Always have been.
I mean, and this comes from that whole idea that of sexual aggressive sexual culture. If we're not teaching our kids how to negotiate relationships, whether it be sexually, whether it just be boundaries on whether or not you want to do something together, that's an important topic to have for your sons and your daughters. You should teach your son that he should have actual consent for the action, not even just like to have sex, but like if you guys are just making out and it goes too far, be like, hey, can we go back to making out? Is that cool? Like, we don't have to have sex tonight, but can we just like have intimacy, and teach them about that instead of you just put a penis in a vagina and that's how babies are made. That's like the actual, and like that's what you learn about sex, period. And then even reproductive organs, that men are taught about the penis exclusively, but we don't really talk about the vagina as much. It's kind of like a weird, like, don't talk about it thing.
Taboo.
And I think what you touched on earlier, we really need to get that out there. The most famous case right now, it's not really a case because, there's no cops involved from what I understand, but a TikTok couple, Sienna Mae Gomez and Jack Wright. We have video evidence of Sienna Mae Gomez sexually assaulting Jack Wright.
Mm-hmm.
And when he comes out and says, this was an assault, I did not want it, her and many other women of various ages came and said, well, if this was an assault, why didn't he just stop her? The man was passed out. We have this as video evidence.
Yeah.
Women assault men. Women assault women, possibly more than men assault women.
Humans assault humans
Period.
every few seconds.
Yeah.
That's
Fair.
a special thing.
And
Fair.
us as a species has no problem attacking somebody else for how they handled it, but we don't ever address how to actually fucking handle it and deal with that shit.
And one of the things that I would really love to be taught in school is just because you didn't like it doesn't mean after the fact you can claim it as an assault.
Period.
If this was consensual from the beginning to end, no matter how whack it was,
You can't complain about it later.
that is not an assault.
No.
That was just a bad experience.
Yeah,
And guess what? We all have them.
And not only that, but
There are zero wall women out there.
not even
They
that.
exist.
But like,
Short
especially
stroke
from
man
like
out
a
there.
woman's perspective, like not even a woman's, from my journey, sometimes you have to do something to learn it's not who you are or what you want to do. You might think that you're a certain type of person, and then you experience it and you're like, oh shit, that ain't my field, and just because you experience something that you were like, yeah, I'm a freak, I might be open to this, and then you do it and you're like, oh shit, yeah, that's not for me, that doesn't mean you should hold it against that other person. You agree to it, you let it happen.
I'll
And
give anything a try.
And I'm not
Just-
even trying to victim blame. We say we need to teach girls to like be careful, but we don't actually teach them in school. Like, hey, you need to say and enforce this, and not just be like, well, You already pushed me past one boundary, so you already put your penis in my vagina and I didn't want you to do that, so I might as well let you do anal. Like, no, you can say no. And guys can say no too.
True.
And that's where the line gets blurred for me for sexual assault. Is that we know if a woman or a man is walking down the fucking street and gets dragged into an alley and penetrated against their will by someone else, that is rape. That's a clear definition, and everyone will be outraged by that.
Even if you're a famous swimmer.
Even whatever the case is. But if
Brock, I'm talking about Brock.
Just to give you an example of a situation where I think would be a harder line to draw. You and your partner met on a fetish website and you do the freaky ass shit and you have a different type of lifestyle relationship than the average person. You crawl on your fucking knees and bring them food and lingerie, and you live life to a certain point where if I say no, sometimes it's a little bit okay. And then one night you get put in a position where your partner is saying no and saying all the things that they don't want to fucking do, and it continues on. Now, is that rape? Is that assault if you've been doing these things before and the situation is very similar in the past? I don't know. Like that, to me, that's like where we need to be able to teach our kids how to communicate and negotiate in relationships without, so that they have less of a chance of being violated and stick up for themselves. And also don't waste the other person's time. Just because you don't want to fuck someone in the ass doesn't mean this other chick isn't into that. It would just be way easier if we gave them the setup to be able to just be like, we don't want the same things, and that's okay. But instead, we want to sit there and get mad because Kevin Samuels is saying 2% of what I'm saying right now. No offense, guy.
Right. But those are bars, though. I mean, like it's on. I've never considered it until you actually broke it down in that way, but there is, with all due consideration, if we're gonna perceive most rape circumstances under a psychological evaluation, that you have both psychology and reverse psychology. You have rape and reverse rape. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There are those that use seduction, sedition, and manipulation, if not full-on blackmail, to take a hold and take advantage of a circumstance.
And I'm going to go...
Those things have to be addressed.
And I agree, but I'm going to go a step further and say that educationally, that we should be learning about our organs, just like we learn about hearts and how they function and other parts of our body. Like women should know that their fucking clitoris has like 5,000 like sensory entry points, like 5,000 nerves or something like that. Like women should know that about their clit, and you shouldn't have the first time someone touching your clit be by another person. You should explore your entire body and know everything about your body and before you share it with another person. And that's not something that's talked about. We don't feel comfortable talking to our children about it half the time. It's not ever addressed, and we have to take the time. I mean, all of us had to learn about ourselves and learn about how to interact with someone sexually from someone else other than like your parents or your school. I mean, is that realistic? Because for me, it was. My parents didn't talk to me about sexual health and about that I should pee every time I have sex so that I don't get a urinary tract infection. I didn't learn that from them.
No, my mother said, you need to teach your son about sex. And my dad said, hey, boy, you know about fucking, right? I said, yeah. And that was my birds and bees conversation. Period.
Hey, I got thrown a videotape and a Playboy and so figure it out pretty much.
That's even fucking worse.
Right.
I want you to watch a performance to learn how to... That's what women want, to be slapped in the face with your dick. Yeah.
And definitely show up to the house with an empty pizza box with a hole in it.
Or be a pool man.
Yeah. Like, that's fucking real. No.
Cable guys.
Porn is performative and aggressive, and I'm not trying to be a fucking asshole, but in the reality of it, the porn industry, you can ask many porn stars, it is aggressive towards sexual women and it's fetishized. it is about performance and what people appeals to people. It affects the brain a certain fucking way, and that's not the realities for everybody. Not everybody watches porn. Not everybody is going to like those fucking things. So you should learn how the body works and learn how to communicate with your partner so that you can just tell them, I don't like it when you touch me this way.
And I mean,
that doesn't mean I don't like having sex with you, but I would like to change it. Sorry.
Just to go along with that, I mean, you can't demonize porn and then walk to your child and say, Leviticus is the only thing you need to know about sex.
Bars.
You can't do it.
No.
Yeah, please don't watch girl on girl fucking porn, but don't sign the permission slip if they try to talk about any type of gay sex in class. I think that comprehensive and inclusive sexual education and health education should include LGBT. I know not everyone in this room might feel that way, but I think that if we are going to teach our children that a penis should go in a vagina, we should also teach them safely how to use the other parts of their body. And we should have the realities that women and women have sex and men have sex. And there are people who are born with different parts. And sexuality is a whole, like, fucking playing field that we don't really understand all the way.
I don't think your teacher's comfortability with a subject should dictate if it's taught or not.
Yeah.
Period. I don't care how comfortable you are. You need to educate these people, these young people, on the facts of the matter.
You guys don't think that's too radical?
Heterosexual, homosexual, and hermaphroditic genealogies are real things, and they should be taught because you will incur upon these things as you go through life. They happen to all species. It's not a human thing alone.
And see, my thing is, no, that is not a radical thing. What's radical to me is schools having sports at all, but no martial arts. You can get hurt. Amazing. You can get hurt in football almost at a 90% rate.
Concussions are yeah.
I'm not trying to be rude, but that's because America's like Cobra Kai. There's no weakness in this dojo. Like, that's the reality of a lot of white guys trying to do martial arts. I'm not trying to be a dick, but you would have to respect the cultural aspects of martial arts, and the whole point of this conversation is that other cultures are not taught in school. So I think that's a great fucking idea, actually.
Yeah, and there's nothing more bastardized in martial arts than mixed martial arts. Because that is a hodgepodge of everything.
Yeah, but it doesn't take traditions and respect of.
It depends on the coach. Depends on the teacher.
True, but I'm just saying, like, the reality of it. Go ahead.
Shout out to China for making wushu your physical education, which is something that everyone in the country needs. If you're going to educate, you're going to learn it. Y'all need education.
God, I am fucking up with this soundboard. I'm sorry. That's what you
deserve. That's what you deserve.
I gave you a sheet.
Blow your brain.
With the labels on it.
Right. I blame Diana. This is her show.
It's always my fault.
She did this. No, but again, I believe if you can teach sports, you can teach martial arts. Martial arts will protect you, or at least assist you in situations where you don't want to be in, such as a physical altercation with somebody that you don't want. And along with that, if they can teach sports, they can teach you homosexuality, because it fucking exists in the world.
Yeah,
it happens everywhere.
Just because you don't like it, you don't like it, doesn't mean it don't exist.
Prepare the kids. The future, however you want to put it, prepare them for what they're about to experience in the world.
Y'all can't taste it, but I can. Doesn't mean I'm gonna hate on everybody for eating sugar.
Just prepare the next generation for what they're going to encounter.
Period.
Well, not even that, but also prepare them how to deal with people who aren't like them. And just because you don't have the same experiences doesn't mean that someone else's truth isn't a fucking thing. My motto is always provide the environment for another person to be vulnerable with you. Don't get me wrong. We can all spot whether someone is worth our time or whack. I get that. But I still try not to be the type of person who's going to, like, shit on someone else's parade just because I don't agree with it. I just try to move on. Like, even if I don't agree, I'm not disrespectful about it until, like, you come at me to a certain degree. Now, I will admit to you guys, Diana, who has, like, throw the gloves on, is a whole different fucking person. And road rage, I have a problem. I really do. I know that
she does.
I'm wrong.
Road rage.
I literally threaten people and their families for generations, and
She has threatened generations of grandchildren.
yeah.
You see
For
the
people
size of the
she's
vehicle I
known
drive,
for
I have
half a
road rage.
second.
No, you guys don't even understand. Like, I have this thing about when people drive, because vehicles to me are like a weapon. Like, you are just careless with them and you could literally kill someone and their entire fucking family
Fuck
by
yeah.
texting while driving.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I'm a perfect fucking driver or anything. Like, I'm not perfect in any regard, but I just am particularly sensitive about people driving around without like, there's traffic laws, okay? Just follow the fucking lines and stop when it's red. How hard is that?
Even if you avoid the laws, everyone's a better driver when you pay attention to what the fuck you're doing.
Truth. And
It's
like,
a phone.
no.
Fucking call.
That's why we have Bluetooth stereos.
Fucking Zoom chat.
I mean,
I mean,
personally,
video. I mean, I get
problem-
video chats when I drive. I'd rather you do that than try to fucking
right?
text
So you
me.
can see I'm driving,
'Cause
and I don't have to
if
look
you
at
text me and I don't
but-
answer,
yeah.
I mean,
I'm driving.
personally, I don't like the cell phone because I don't understand why people think they are so important in my life that they can just contact me when they want to.
We run a podcast, jackass.
No.
That
that's different.
and if money's involved,
Morning
if
chats.
money's involved, I'm providing lucrative to you, nigga. Okay, your life, you paid your bills with a portion of my finances.
College is a real thing.
So yeah,
She just
when I hit
snapped.
you up, you better be ready.
Better
'Cause-
goddamn answer, motherfucker.
This segment
3
brought to you
rings
by
and we got a problem.
completely legal activity.
Yes.
If you see it happening, don't call the cops.
True. True.
Also
true.
brought to you by Don't Get Slapped by Diana while driving because she will curse your family.
No. You think I'm
Not
playing?
cursed.
I think the first time he looked at me like I was in. We've been through a lot. You guys know I have schizophrenia and all kinds of other fucking issues. This man rarely looks at me like I'm crazy, even if I'm like, there's bugs in my skin. He's like, I got you. But this guy almost hit me when I was in a turning lane. I'm stopped in a protected turn lane, and he almost hits me and honks at me. I was like, I will follow you home and murder your fucking toddler. And
There's a difference
it was.
between
He looked at me like he
Well,
had
damn.
never seen me before.
there's a difference between hearing Diana say a joke and then you experience the miasma of her rage
There's different
while you're
vibrations.
strapped in to this four-wheeled rocket that this little demon is talking about. Your family.
And this is my fucking issue with confrontation. Anybody who has ever known me knows I am not a confrontational person. And I am fine if they think it's
second that bullshit.
because I am scared of confrontation. I am. I know I live in a society where if I wild the fuck out, there will be repercussions.
She's a Tasmanian devil. Don't buy this.
And
people.
when I snap, like, I'm not trying to say I'm a fucking badass. I'm just trying to tell you I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm telling you I don't know what's gonna happen.
I'm telling you, you're going to look at her. She's going to say, "Tez hate water," and then your whole life is going to change.
Water.
What it boils down to,
That's
people,
damn.
stay on this woman's good side
Anyways,
because you will be attacked multiple times.
that was a public service
Don't like the
announcement
day to start
for
running.
road rage and respect the road hose, okay? Anyways, I am going to cut this off because I think that we have addressed this topic in enough attention at this point, and
It is
I don't
time
like
for
to
us to
keep
cross
this
the
too
rabbit
long. I can't do it. So I'm gonna say thank you everyone for listening. I really appreciate any time you guys listen to my show and my bullshit. You guys really have no fucking clue. Anyone who listens, you're the shit. Thank you. You make
You
my
save
life.
our lives.
And thanks guys for being here and willing to talk about things that aren't always easy to talk about. It's what I'm passionate about, and I'm like super glad that I found you guys to share it with. So
Sweet.
All right, I think that is the end of everything. Just remember, everybody, we are on Patreon. We need your support to keep bringing you entertainment such as this.
And also, we got merchandise, so check us out there. The link is up on our Facebook page.
yes,
And if you ever
we're
feel
working
like
on putting
just
more stuff
donating,
out.
We take that too.
We take all your
Also, guys, if you have any interest in any of the things I talked about today and would like to know more about it and just want resources, like stuff that I've looked at, or just want to talk about it, or if you have questions, comments, or just like have ideas for other topics, I am always happy to have any type of interaction with anyone, any listener. You can contact me directly at catharticruination@gmail.com, and I will get back to you. Thank you very much for listening. This has been Diana.
Completely clean and PG Nick P.
Lies.
For once.
For once.
This is your man, Shy Don.
And Dr. Dexter Fillmore Travis.
Just remember, put doctor in front.
Yeah.
Only for this show.
Yes. It's like I got a PhD in bullshit.
All right,
Peace. Pimpin' hater degree.